climate tracker on WION World is One.
Hello there, I'm Eric Njoka, and this is Race to Power on WION World is One. Welcome to the show. Tonight, a Turkish court delayed a decision on whether to oust the main opposition leader and annul his party's 2023 Congress of alleged irregularities in a case that has already deepened the country's political crises. And in New York, President Trump slammed Governor Kathy Hochul for endorsing Zoran Mamdani for mayor, extending his efforts to influence the race for Grace Mansion. Thank you for joining us. We begin in Turkiye. There's a political showdown unfolding in Turkiye. The opposition party has been under a systemic crackdown from President Erdogan. But an eagerly awaited court order on the CHP party and its future has the country divided. A court in Ankara has delayed a critical hearing on the potential ouster of opposition party CHP's leader. The Turkish court has delayed the decision by weeks and will now hear the case concerning Republican People's Party and its chairman, Özgür Özel, on October 24th. The court is also scheduled to announce a decision concerning the party's 2023 Congress, which could be annulled over accusations of corruption and procedural irregularities. While court has now been adjourned, the expected hearing triggered a massive outpouring of support for the opposition party. On Sunday, thousands rallied in support of the CHP, bringing the capital's streets to a standstill. The protesters rallied against President Erdogan, calling for his resignation.
This case is political. The allegations are slander. Our friends are innocent. This is a coup. It is a coup against the future president and government. We will resist. We will resist. We will resist.
CHP leader Özgür Özel slammed the government's crackdown and accused Erdogan of trying to cling to power by undermining democratic norms and suppressing dissent.
We are here for our freedom, for democracy, for rights and law. There is so much beyond these four, but the most important thing is our rights, law and justice.
Turkish government has denied allegations of targeted crackdown on its main political rival. However, the accusations are not new. The crackdown against CHP began months ago and escalated into a complete showdown after former Istanbul mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu was arrested shortly after he was elected as the CHP's presidential candidate for the next polls. FBI Director Kash Patel will face judicial committees of the U.S. Congress to answer questions on the agency's handling of Charlie Kirk's murder investigation. Patel will appear before the Senate and House committees on Tuesday and Wednesday. Kash Patel's appearance will be a high-stakes one as scrutiny increases around his leadership and capabilities to lead the FBI. Now, according to U.S. media reports, the FBI director has come under fire for his social media posts on a, quote, subject who was taken into custody, a claim that Patel backtracked from just a few hours later. The conduct or the conduct during key hours of Kirk's murder, has come into question from within the FBI and from major voices in the conservative circle. While allies of the US president are raising questions on Patel's ability to lead the US law enforcement agency, the FBI director still reportedly enjoys support from Donald Trump. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung defended Kash Patel and commended him for, quote, his resolve and dedication. Those who support Kash Patel are calling the criticism an act of political gamesmanship. But Patel's role as the head of the FBI has been under scrutiny since the moment he was appointed. More recently, Patel's role came into question after a reported fallout with US Attorney General Pam Bondi over how the White House administration handled Epstein file saga. The loopholes in investigating Charlie Kirk's murder has further increased the scrutiny. There's also speculation around Patel's ouster from the role. This only grew louder after it was announced that former Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey is set to be sworn into a power-sharing role with Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino. Bailey was at one point of time Trump's top pick for the FBI chief's role. Let's now talk to our correspondent, Susan Teherani. She's now joining us live from New York. Susan, good to see you. Hi. There's a lot of talk regarding Andrew Bailey. There are people who are saying, or there are critics who are saying that he's the better replacement for Kash Patel. What are Americans saying about this, despite Kash Patel enjoying support from President Trump?
Right. The appointment of Andrew Bailey in this unprecedented position to sort of have this power sharing position with Dan Bongino has raised questions on whether or not Kash Patel's days at the FBI are numbered. Now, the White House denies that, the FBI denies that. But under federal law, Andrew Bailey would have to work for the FBI under this position for 90 days before, if the FBI leadership position is vacant, before he can move on and become FBI director. Now, again, there's no indication that that's going to happen, but there are a lot of voices who are criticizing Patel. Patel was on Fox News just earlier this morning defending his tweet on X, saying that, you know, they had the suspect in custody, and then backtracking, he said that I wanted to be completely transparent with the American public. That's why I was giving real-time updates. Nonetheless, some are also weary about how Patel handled the Jeffrey Epstein file, despite before becoming FBI director saying that everything's going to be on the table, there's going to be a list out there and whatnot. So, you know, there's a lot of talk on whether or not he's the right person to lead. We're going to definitely see a lot of fireworks at that hearing on Capitol Hill tomorrow and Wednesday. But nonetheless, Patel continues to enjoy the president's support. And there are those that believe that he's the right person for the job. But as you mentioned, because Andrew Bailey is now in the picture and he was Trump's first pick to be FBI director, we're hearing these voices. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell indeed. Susan Teherani, we'll have to leave it there. Good to see you. Thank you. New York mayoral race is getting interesting. Democrat Party candidate Zoran Mamdani has received a fresh push. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has put her weight behind Mamdani. Hochul called Zoran Mamdani a leader who is focused on making New York City affordable. Hochul's endorsement is the latest high-profile Democrat and the most powerful in the state to back the 33-year-old Mamdani's campaign. Although other high-profile Democrats like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are holding their horses. Mamdani is banking on affordability and tax the rich pitch. His campaign has drawn widespread criticism from the Republican side. President Trump has called him a communist on more than one occasion. In the most recent polls, Mamdani is surging ahead of all the other candidates. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is polling 22 points behind Mamdani. Republican candidate Curtis Swiller is on third with 15% support. Mayor Eric Adams is trailing behind on fourth spot at 9% support. Zoran Mamdani has a clear edge, but things can turn quickly in preferential vote systems. Is Mamdani failing, or if Mamdani fails to secure 50% vote in the first round, the last candidate will be eliminated and their vote will be distributed among remaining frontrunners. In short, to secure a win, a candidate must secure second or third preference from the voters of other candidates. From Manhattan to Brooklyn and Bronx, New Yorkers will head to the polling stations on the 4th of November, when world's wealthiest city will elect a new mayor. After taking charge as the head of the interim government, Nepal's Prime Minister Sushila Karki has announced the first members of her cabinet. She has inducted 3 new ministers on Monday who took the oath of office at Sital Niwas, the Rashtrapati Bhawan in Kathmandu. The cabinet expansion, initially expected on Sunday, was delayed due to the Prime Minister's packed schedule. Like Prime Minister Karki, all 3 new ministers also don't have a conventional political background. The 73-year-old former Chief Justice has picked former Finance Secretary Kanal as Finance Minister. Advocate and anti-corruption activist Om Prakash Aryal has been given the Law and Home Affairs portfolio, while former Executive Director of the Nepal Electricity Authority Kulman Gesing has been given charge of the Ministry of Energy and Irrigation alongside physical infrastructure and transport and urban development. Senior advocate Sabita Baral has been appointed as Attorney General, becoming the first woman to hold the role in the country's history. A seasoned legal expert, she represented cricketer Sandeep Lamichhane in a high-profile case in which he was accused of raping a minor. She is also a former commissioner at the Information Commission and the daughter of renowned legal scholar Krishna Prasad Bandari. Her nomination was made by Prime Minister Karki and approved by President Ramchandra Podel. According to reports, Karki has told her inner circle that she plans to limit her cabinet size to 15 members. Addressing the nation on Sunday, Karki said that her government is not interested in power, but in serving the nation, and that they will still stay in power for just 6 months, post which they will pass on the baton to new ministers in parliament.
Hello.
And for the latest from Kathmandu, our correspondent Saloni Murarka reports.
After 2 days of her appointment as the interim Prime Minister, Sushila Karki has now finally formed a 3-member cabinet. And further, it will continue and gradually be a 15-member cabinet in her government. However, as per this situation demands, she has focused on forming the Home Ministry, the Finance Ministry and the Urban Development to bring the law and order and normalcy back in the country. The group that proposed her name to lead the government as an interim leader have now started to raise their objection and concerns over the minister's appointment. They say that they were not consulted for their appointment as the ministers. Prime Minister, in her first address, while observing a minute's silence, she announced assistance to those families and called for a thorough investigation into this matter. I'm Saloni Murarka reporting from Kathmandu for WION.
France is in the midst of a prolonged political crisis. The new government and old challenges, Macron and his new prime minister, are caught up in a political quagmire. The opposition National Rally is demanding dissolution of parliament. France's biggest opposition party's leader, Marine Le Pen, has called for fresh mandate. Chants of Marine president were heard as she demanded for the fresh elections and dissolution of parliament.
What we need is a return to the spirit and letter of the Fifth Republic, and therefore Given the current situation, a return to the polls. I sense your impatience, but it's true that the only solution to this in the short term is to dissolve the National Assembly.
Marine Le Pen is barred from running in elections after being sentenced to 5 years on ineligibility in an EU funds misappropriation case. The next appeal in the case will take place next January after Le Pen's number 2 party leader Jordan Bardella is heading the party in her absence. National Rally is eyeing premiership. As of now, the party is surging ahead in polls. It is on top with 33% support. On number 2 is New Popular Front broad left-wing electoral alliance with centre-left, left and far-left factions. Macron's ruling alliance is on 3rd with 15% support. France underwent a series of unsettling events last week. Collapse of the Francois Bayrou government, block everything protests, and Sebastian Lecornu taking the prime ministerial hot seat. Macron's own approval ratings also remain in trenches. 76% people disapprove of his performance as president. Only 23% of French people say they are happy with him. President Macron's term ends in 2027. He has vowed to complete his term. The deadlock in parliament is likely to continue, with opposition parties refusing to budge on budget cuts. Russia held local elections in regions bordering Ukraine. Residents in 21 Russian regions were called on to vote to elect local governors. This includes Russian-occupied regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson. The polling process also took place in Kursk, which has seen a Ukrainian incursion that has held territory along the border for 9 months.
I want kindergartens and schools to open so that you can go to work, so that there are no explosions, so that children do not shudder from these sounds.
Due to security concerns, election workers enabled door-to-door voting. The arrangement was made to avoid exposing voters to possible dangers of polling booths. Similar measures were being used in Belgorod region, which also borders Ukraine.
I would like to say that the demand was colossal. There is a demand, people ask. The commission goes to their homes, conducts voting.
According to a report by Russian state TV, Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine also took part in the voting. 4 polling stations were opened in the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics and 1 in the Russian-occupied part of the Kherson region. African National Congress President Cyril Ramaphosa has introduced the party's latest action plan designed to strengthen local government and improve service delivery across South Africa. The announcement took place in Johannesburg, where more than 6,000 ANC councillors and mayors gathered ahead of a roll call meeting at the FNB Stadium. During the meeting, the councillors and mayors will be expected to report on the progress they have made since taking office after the 2021 local government elections. The purpose of this gathering is to assess municipal performance, identify gaps in governance, and increase accountability among local officials. This initiative follows a 2-day session concluded by the ANC's National Executive Committee in Boksburg, which focused on addressing widespread service delivery failures in municipalities throughout the country. During the meeting, President Ramaphosa urged municipalities to act decisively against corruption. As the ANC prepares for the 2026 local government elections, the party faces growing pressure to fulfill its promises to South Africans. Many voters have become frustrated with ongoing challenges in service delivery, leading to a need for the ANC to rebuild trust and reconnect with communities. The The Tibetan parliament in exile is moving to formalize the national flag, a symbol of the Tibetan freedom struggle. For the first time, leaders in Dharamshala are preparing to set official standards on its dimensions, its color, and its design. In Dharamshala, the seat of the Tibetan government in exile, lawmakers are taking a defining step to standardize the Tibetan national flag, the iconic flag that is long seen as a symbol of freedom and resistance against Chinese rule has never been officially standardized. Deputy Speaker Dolma Sering says the flag has never been formally recognized or regulated by the Tibetan Secretariat. He stressed that a select committee has been tasked with creating clear rules on the flags. The process will be completed in the ongoing parliamentary session. The standardization move is expected to give the flag and the freedom movement it represents a common single identity. The 10th session of the 17th Parliament in exile began in Dharamshala on September 10th and will be in session until September 18th.
The flag will be printed and published and shared around the world with one flag, so that when we have marches and protests, it has become fashionable and patriotic thing to do. For example, wearing a flag, you carry flag, it has to be the same design. So that is the standardization of one Tibetan flag for everybody.
Syria is holding a parliamentary election. This is the first polling process after the oust of Bashar al-Assad. Ahmed al-Sharaa, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, first became a de facto leader of the government. He has now taken the role of president. The move is part of the new government's efforts to gain international recognition and implement economic reforms critical for Syria's reintegration into the global community. But the country remains fractured. Kurds are resisting in north after 14 years of civil war. They are demanding new constitution in the country. Druze communities in the southeast are calling for an independent state. And in the northwest, Alawites are concerned about their survival after hundreds of civilians were killed in March.
I think that the new parliament, after being formed, should have a major role in preserving the unity of the Syrian society, boosting civil peace among Syrian components, in addition to conveying the aspirations of the Syrian people in the future of their country.
Last month, Syria's poll body announced the postponement of parliamentary elections in 3 provinces, Al-Hasake and Raqqa in northeastern Syria. They are controlled by the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, and Suwaida in southern Syria, held by the Druze minority. Unlike conventional elections, elections in Syria are fully indirect, relying on heads of local bodies to nominate parliamentarians. The new assembly will consist of 210 seats. 1/3 of the members will be directly appointed by Syrian interim leader al-Sharaa, while the remaining 2/3 will be chosen by local electoral colleges. The election process will continue for 5 days. Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami's student front swept the Central Students' Union election at Jahangir Nagar University less than a week after its triumph at the Dhaka University, which was first of its kind victory for an Islamist student group since Bangladesh's independence in 1971. According to an official announcement, the Islami Chhatra Shibir secured 20 out of 25 posts in the JU Central Students' Union election, even though it was virtually banned for nearly 35 years on the suburban campus. The panel, nominated by Students Against Discrimination, or SAD, also secured only 2 of the 25 posts. The vice president post went to newly formed Swatantra Samilon, or Triple S, as its leader won a single seat, while former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's BNP-backed student group JCD could not secure any seat. The Students Against Discrimination, which spearheaded last year's movement that toppled Sheikh Hasina's Awami League government, failed to make an impact amid internal splits. The vice president's post, however, was won by Abdul Rashid Zitu, who contested from a newly formed group called Swatantra Shikati Samilon as its top leader. On Wednesday, the Islamist student group won a landslide victory in Dhaka University Central Students' Union polls, securing 9 out of 12 posts. The student front of former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's Bangladesh Nationalist Party rejected the results, alleging planned manipulation and termed the polls a farce. Meanwhile, a coalition of Islamist and like-minded parties is gearing up for simultaneous protests this week, demanding sweeping political reforms. The Jamaat-e-Islami, Islami Andolan Bangladesh, or IAB, and 5 other parties have announced plans to launch coordinated movements across the country. The National Citizen Party had also agreed to support the movement, but hours later, a senior NCP leader clarified that no formal decision had been made. However, many leaders of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party are alleging that there is a conspiracy to delay the upcoming national elections. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party has warned that missing the February deadline for national polls could pose serious national and regional security crises or risks. Senior BNP leader Salahuddin Ahmed said that elections must not be delayed by reform debates and urged certainty in the timeline. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus assured that the interim government remains committed to holding a credible election in February next year. Analysts fear delays could fuel unrest and undermine democratic credibility. And that's the latest on Race to Power on WION The World is One. Thank you for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions